Hey, it's Kimberly and welcome back to my channel. I make videos on all things lifestyle on a budget, and whew, am I happy to get out of October. Now, October is my birthday month. I had an amazing month in regards to that, in regards to seeing people, doing a lot of fun stuff. Yes, so happy for it. But if you remember in my last few budget videos, I mentioned how there's 2 times in the year that I really get like drained of money, and October happens to be one of those months. And let me just say, I am exhausted. I couldn't wait for November. I am so happy it's November now, but I did just get hit with another expense that kind of just put me right back to the feeling that I had last month. So let's get into it. I'm gonna give you a whole budget update of how things have been going, trying to remain debt-free, and then I'm also going to be eating my words because having a credit card actually saved me, and I wanna talk about that experience. So again, budget video. I usually every dollar I have to track my expenses. October is notoriously an expensive month for me because it's about $1,000 extra out of my budget that I need to dedicate towards expenses. Not anything to do with like shopping or anything like that. So I already had that working against me, but I had a plan. But then that plan went off track because right at the start of the month, literally my birthday week, I'll paint the scene and let me know if this is a conspiracy theory or not. One thing I try to never do in general when it comes to cards and your information is I usually try not to give that information over the phone just in case, or if I have to do that, it's usually with like an official company or something of the sort. In this particular scenario, it was over the weekend. I was calling a company for a service and you had to put a credit card on file. That happens. And I've been on the receiving end as someone that used to work at a spa. I put the numbers in whatever. I never memorize them. I never do anything with them because that's illegal. 2 days later, I'm suddenly getting a text message from my bank saying fraud attempt. Is this you or is this not? And I was like, my card isn't stolen, is it? So I went to go look for my bank card. I have it with me and I was like, okay, everything's fine. But the way my bank works, it's like, oh, if this wasn't you that made this charge, we have to close that card. And I was like, no, not like in my birthday week. Like what? Like what's happening? So I call them and apparently there were charges for a racetrack out in Flushing, Queens. One purchase they started was about $980. Then they tried to do $580. Then they brought it down to like under $100, and then they brought it down to $50. So they tried to do 4 transactions. My bank is great. They picked it up very quickly. They did not let the charges go through. They just basically froze the account or wouldn't let it happen. Awesome. Hope you guys have the same protection with your banks. That's great, but on the receiving end, I got that notification. It said, hey, that's not you, cool, we have to close your card immediately, which of course they do. So I call the bank and I'm like, what am I supposed to do until then? Because as I've said in all of these videos with my debt journey, I specifically remember saying, I'm not gonna use my credit card for anything for at least 6 months because I wanna pace myself so that I don't get caught, with all these charges, etc., etc. I know I said something along those lines and it makes me laugh because I feel like there are times where I make declarative statements and they always come back to bite me in the butt. So this was that time. The bank just literally said, we gotta send you a new card, but we'll do Apple Pay for an account so that you can make some purchases, but anything else you need to do, you'll have to go to the bank and get cash or whatever. Now I have to maybe carry on my credit card. This is weird. I don't want to put any purchases on that because now that money will start building. The one time I actually give my credit card information over the phone, like everything, within a day or 2, I suddenly have fraud. Now it's twofold. I did this while I was in my apartment. If someone heard me, it would be the people next door. I'm not accusing them, I'm just saying that would be the only other people that would have heard because I know where I was sitting and that would be a wall, so it would be them. Or it's the people on the receiving end. There's literally no one else. I mean, there's other scenarios where people are like, in the past it would be, just a random card number generator and I just like hit the jackpot, but I'm not sure. Needless to say, I called that company back and canceled whatever I was gonna do with them, but I was like mad sus. I was like, I wanna say something to them because obviously I'm not at a racetrack and I'm definitely not betting. That's not in my life. So this is where my saving grace, my credit card comes in. I don't have many cards. I don't have a lot of charge cards. We know I'm trying to keep it simple. If I didn't have another card, I would be SOL. Like I could keep going to the bank and taking out cash. And yes, I had the Apple Pay option, but there are certain places that just don't take Apple Pay. For example, when I was going to get a massage, they don't take Apple Pay. So for that whole week, had that card, had to carry it around, had to do all the expenses on it for the events that I was doing, and then just had to keep reminding myself, you have to pay that back, you have to pay that back. Now, if you have a credit card, you know it's not bad news bears if you use your card. It's all about self-control. And I did control myself. After around, I'd say the 15th of the month, I paid everything off, and it was like over $1,000 in purchases. But there are some benefits to using that credit card, which is definitely different than what I was saying for a majority of my debt videos. But this is helpful when you are in control of everything, and that's the rewards. So my rewards shot up so much because I was making a bunch of purchases, which was great. So now I have those rewards and I can eventually use that for something later on. But I did not want to get comfortable and leave that balance on there for the entire month and then try to pay it off now, because you just never know what's around the corner. I also really wanted that bank card back because a lot of my bills are on auto pay and that time was coming up. So imagine that. It's like I don't have the new numbers yet because you don't get the full numbers of what your card's going to be until you actually get the card in the mail. I was going to have to change those bills to my credit card or hope that I got the new card in time, which I did end up getting the new card in time. I just thought the timing was very funny, where it was like I'm almost racing the clock to make sure that I get that new card in time so that I can pay certain bills off. But then I also want to make sure I want to pay the bill of the balance of that credit card so that I have space for the bills that are due on that credit card in time. So this is just money and switching and all that going around. And yes, it was only a week, but it felt like the longest week of my life because I felt like I was on a clock to make sure that I didn't end up in a ton of debt. I split it up into 2 payments. If you are comfortable waiting to the end of the month, you totally can, but I think it's beneficial to pay off your credit card twice in the month if it's a very high balance and you want to just kind of work your way through it. So that's what I did. I paid something like closer to the 15th, so I cleared away, and then that next set of bills that was due was the lower amount, and then I paid that again before my credit card was due. Somewhere in there with the amount of expenses and the charges and all of that, it ended up being like, I think like negative $50. So I overpaid $50 in some way. And it's funny because it's like, oh, well, you can't just get that $50 back. So now it just sits there, but that will hopefully come off with the bills that I have for next month. That is how having a credit card did save me. I was able to still pay it off. That's the difference. So that's where it was like me being in control and making smart decisions and being strategic about when I paid it off. And then I did get the benefits of now my rewards actually soaring a little bit more because I did have bigger purchases. My rewards cards for, shopping, dining, travel, all of that. So those services, the restaurants, the bars and all of that, like that actually was beneficial. So that was kind of good. And I normally don't have that on my credit card. It's usually just bills. That was dealing with my credit card. Now my budget was a hot mess as well. We have these months, it happens. It was my birthday month. There were moments where I did want to treat myself as well. I wanted to stay within, some sort of confinement. We're shifting focus. We're getting back into alignment. I'm gonna try to reel it back even more because we did get a little bit loose. It happens. That's why I write everything down, because I kind of recognize when I'm getting a little out of control. I can just see right away if there's a pattern kicking in and me being like, Kimberlee, calm down, ease up, you don't need to get that, breathe it out, walk it off. You don't actually need that right this instant. And so my goals for the remainder of the year in terms of budget, I really want to get back to those strong saving money goals that I had originally. Monday to Friday, no purchases. The weekends we have a little fun, but not too much. I did have one whopping expense to kickstart my November, and that had to do with my apartment. So I have decided to stay again. The rent is going up, but I love my place a lot. I am still partnering with the guarantors, and so I think I paid about, instead of paying the full security deposit, I'm paying about 60%, which still is a lot, but it is better, but it did set me back for this month. So, so that's what I'm gonna be working towards for the first half of the month, is paying that off. And then everything else will now be kind of like setting aside money for gifts because it is the holiday season. That's really what I feel like I'm looking for. I feel like my groceries might be a little bit higher because Thanksgiving, and I feel like I'll start figuring out holiday gifts for my family. I'm curious how the holidays are for you all. Is this the time of the month where you're like, oh, you're worried, you know, are you like, I'm just gonna charge and forget about it, or I'll charge it and then pay it off in the new year? As I've said before, I'm trying not to think of my charge card as something that is like, I'll pay it over time, but like if I do make a big expense, I'm paying that back immediately. Even if it is a large one, I'm paying it back within the month. Unless something gets so big that I can't control it, but I really would not like to be in that position. Also, let me know where your debt goals are. If you've been working on your debt from the last couple months since my last debt video, how's it going? Are you any closer? Did you have any setbacks? It's okay if you have setbacks. You know, I had setbacks throughout the process. I had setbacks last month, but it's just kind of getting yourself back in the game and just switching it, and you really just got to shift that focus. So I'm curious where you are right now. I'm also cooking up something that I will be announcing soon that I think will help and be along the same theme of keeping track of things, writing them down, knowing what you're doing every day, etc., etc. So we'll be adding that very, very soon. I'm in the final stages of it, and it will be added to that notebook collection that I'm usually mentioning in every video. I have the links down below if you want to check out for some individual stocking stuffers or small gifts. And then that other thing that's coming soon, I will definitely be announcing as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. Let's keep that budget in control. Let's continue to stay debt-free, and I will see you in the next one.